So, welcome to Northern Powerhouses, our business success stories series of interviews. We'll discuss with local business leaders their backgrounds, their successes, their challenges, and what's really driving them forwards. And this morning, I'm delighted to have with us John Readman, who's founder and CEO at Modo25 and Ask Bosco. So, John, firstly, thank you for spending a bit of time with us. And if you'd like to introduce yourself, your businesses, what you do, how you help people, that would be wonderful.
Yeah, so John Readman, founder and CEO of two businesses and a sort of third side project as well, which we can maybe come on to later. So Modo25 is a full service digital marketing agency with a bit of a difference is we help brands who have sort of made the decision they want to bring some or all their digital in-house. Because my view in this changing world of AI marketing, you need a bit of that control in-house. Also, it's expensive to have everything with the agencies plus all the fees for the ad platforms. So we help ambitious brands who've made that decision. They want to bring some or all of it in-house with strategy, recruitment, training, onboarding, and then we sort of sit in the background as like an insurance policy. So if the person you brought in-house goes on holiday or leaves or goes on maternity or paternity, we can jump in and help you. And that's underpinned by our technology platform, Ask Bosco. And Ask Bosco is an AI marketing analytics platform that joins up all your data. So if you imagine all your website data, so your Google, your Facebook, your Amazon, your TikTok, all into one place. And then my view of the world, Chris, is we don't need any more dashboards in our life. We just want the answers, right? So we built an engine that lets you just ask questions. So if you're a Shopify retailer, and you've got loads of spend on Google and Facebook, you might want to know where you should be spending your money. Well, you can just ask Bosco where to spend your money. And I set this business up in nearly 6 years ago now. Well, it is 6 years ago with the founder of Skyscanner. We're now about 43 people based in Leeds. Well, most of them based in Leeds. We work a 4-day week, which I've taken a bit of flack for in the past.
Really?
And I've maintained that all the way. And we set off doing that. We're a best company to work for. We're one of the best tech marketing businesses to work for outside of London, and we're in the number 16 in the whole country. Yeah, and for me, it's all about trying to build a great business that attracts great talent that can do a great job for our clients or build amazing products. So, yeah, that's what keeps me busy.
Wow. And you've got a couple of side things going on as well. You mentioned both cycling and some work in Uganda.
Yeah, so I met my original investor and business partner, Bon, whilst we were on this bike ride from London to Australia. So we're cycling from London to Australia over 25 years to try and change the lives of hundreds of children in an orphanage in Uganda through education and taking them off the streets, basically. And him and I just became mates on the bike ride. And then when I was finishing an earn out on a previous agency business, he was like, "What are you going to do next?" I said, "Well, I've got this idea. We're gonna create this single source of truth around marketing data, right? And we're going to create like the trip advisor for marketing data. So everybody, so if you're an agency and you have and you go out to pitch and go, well, you can trust us because we use Ask Bosco, all right? Or you at the time we hadn't got a name, but I'll explain that in a second. Or if you're a brand and you've got an agency into pitch, you might go, well, we like you, we like your case studies, we like your stories, we like your experience, but we want you to use Ask Bosco. So I was saying we need to build this thing. And I'm going to set up this agency that does this thing. And he's like, that sounds like that's going to take you a lot of time and effort, and you're going to need some money. So he invested some money. And then he was like, well, what are we going to call it? And I said, well, I want it to have something to do with the purpose of how we met. We obviously met on the charity bike ride. I want to do something to support the kids in Africa. So Modo is actually the name of one of the children at the orphanage. And 25 is the link between myself and Bon, which we met on Ride 25, which is 25 stages from London to Sydney. And in 4 weeks' time, I actually set off to do leg 14 because we've been doing this for 14 years now.
Brilliant.
Across India, we're cycling across India. In the real world, a lot of people go, "What do you mean on like a Peloton?" And I'm like, "No, on a real bike."
Brilliant.
And we're flying to Delhi with our bike. And then we were like, "Well, who would Modo go to get advice about the future, and who does Modo trust?" And well, she would go ask Bosco, and Bosco's the name of the guy who actually on the ground runs the charity for us.
Oh well.
So that's how it all sort of pins and joins together. And this year we should go through having raised over 2 million over the last 12, 13 years, and we've changed the lives of nearly 500 children.
Wonderful.
So yeah, so it's not just about making the shareholders and investors loads of money. And what's been interesting about that, I suppose, Chris, is we have attracted people to come and work in our business because of that. So we've attracted
Yes.
people from some of the world's largest businesses, some of which have taken either pay cuts or like different jobs because they want to work for a company who stands for more than just
Yeah.
creating more money for the owner, the founder, or the shareholders. I know maybe some of the founders listening to this will go, well, that's just the CSR BS. But I can demonstrate people we wouldn't have been able to attract if we were just another Me Too business.
Yeah, I mean, I absolutely align with everything you said there. It's lead with purpose, lead with a reason. People want more. I guess maybe it's a luxury of the modern world. We're able to want to not just earn money for ourselves and other people. We want to do things that are really important too. And I think
Yeah.
more and more people are engaged with that. I think we always have been. It's just like it's great when organisations like yours are really clear about some of the big part of their purpose is not just about making money for shareholders. It's doing good in the world, and brilliant. Absolutely fantastic. So many things that you've talked about there. So yeah, I'm really glad that your ride is a physical one. I was just thinking, should I ask the question? And it's
Yeah,
still.
everybody does, and it's just like so. Yeah, so there's 115 of us,
Oh
mainly
man.
founders, entrepreneurs, or yeah. So it's not just like two of us.
Yeah, yeah,
It's a pretty big logistical
yeah.
operation, and it's like a thing now. We've got a waiting list. I don't need to push it.
No,
There's a waiting list, and we select who gets to come or who doesn't come. We had so much demand, we started it again 5 years ago, and that's now founders and CEOs only. And they just cycled from Milan to Rome. That's now about 80 plus people, and it will have a cap at 100. So yeah, it's like a thing. It's like a club,
brilliant.
and then in another 5 years we'll start off again. So I might end up cycling to Sydney 3 times.
You'll have to
I'm
come
currently
back.
cycling to Sydney twice.
Yeah, you'll have to come back. We'll go keep going, I guess. You can come back the other.
Yeah,
Oh,
go
there's a lot
around
of
the other way
water.
across America. We'll
A
go
lot
come
of
back
water.
across America. There's talk of going from the top of Canada to the bottom of South America, but I don't know when I'm going to fit that in.
Oh, that would be cool. I've got someone of those doing half of that at the moment. And there's funny enough, I
Yeah.
met a guy I think it was last year, and he has done. You may be aware of him. He's done the Forrest Gump run. So
Oh, right. No.
he's from Liverpool. He's a vet from Liverpool, would you believe? And he just decided he liked running that he would do literally the. I mean, obviously it's a fictional run, but and so it was like I think it's three times across America. Um,
Yeah.
and it was really fun. He's really entertaining guy. I was at the event I was with, and he literally filmed. There's a bit if you remember the film where he's run this three times across, and he's in the middle of the desert, and he says, "I think I'll go home now" or something, and just walks off.
Yeah. Yeah.
He
Yeah.
does exactly the same thing in a Scouse accent, but yeah, it's just fascinating. I mean, I just love adventures, and it just sounds like you're combining so many good things with a great adventure.
Yeah, no, no. Well, it's. I think the biggest thing about the bike ride, which people don't necessarily, everybody thinks, well, we all must be like proper cyclists. I still don't consider myself a cyclist, right? When we set the cycle ride up, neither Rob or I were really seasoned cyclists. We had two
Right,
very average bikes and didn't go out for long bike rides, but we wanted to create a thing that brought people together to do some good, had a sense of adventure, got to see the world in a different way. So we had people sign up for this. We had some people who signed up for the Founders Ride this year, and when they signed up sort of 6 months before, didn't even own a bike,
brilliant.
and they're doing 100 miles a day every day for 4 days or 5 days. And yeah, they get on it, and it's life changing for some people.
Brilliant.
So yeah, it's a lovely thing to be involved in. But the connections you make over 4 days
Yeah.
through a shared experience, sometimes shared pain, sometimes
Yes.
shared
Yep.
exhilaration, and is very different to just going taking someone to the pub or going out for lunch or
Yeah.
going to the rugby. It's a much different experience, and you're doing something good for charity.
Wonderful.
So again, yeah. So
Well, I'm going to drag you away to to talk a bit more about business,
Let's
if I
talk about
may.
real business. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But I could talk all day about venture. So just looking back, I guess, John, it would be good to just get some key learnings you've had about, well, maybe talk about some of the challenges you've had as you've grown to this stage and this size of your business.
I think being candid. So my friend from Skyscanner, Bond, said at the beginning, it's going to cost you more money, it's going to take you longer, and it's going to be harder to build technology. And I was like, nah, 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 I've got it licked. And it's taken us longer, it's been harder, and it's cost us more money, and we've got it wrong. We've had to, and also as we've been building, other technologies been coming along.
Yeah.
So the interest, we had a meeting literally 2 days ago. It's like all this stuff that we've spent years building should we just delete and replace with this off the shelf thing that might be better than what we've been building? Well, and that's quite an emotional thing. But
Yes.
I think the risk is if you don't look at the world that way and you just go, oh no, what we've got is amazing. But other people have got more amazing stuff. They've got big. So I think it's that sort of having to be agile. And I suppose it's having the confidence to pause. Not, we haven't done a full pivot, but it's that, right, actually, maybe what we've built now, it's not obsolete, but there's other stuff we can bolt on top or add in to make better. Um, and then I think so that's been an evolution, and trying to build technology on a budget when you haven't can't afford the really expensive people, it's hard. I think what's fascinating now, though, Chris, is it's a lot easier now than it was
Yeah.
6 years ago or whatever, because you've got all this AI code generation, and I can knock up a proof of concept, which drives my development team crazy because I go, look, can't be that hard. I don't know why you're saying it's going to take 3 months. Look, I did it in 2 hours over the weekend with Lovable or Replit or Cursor AI. But no, so I think one of the hardest things is if you're trying to genuinely build scalable enterprise level technology with a small team, is like the time it takes, the investment it takes, and yeah, it's just the patience. Because
Yeah.
I'm a natural salesperson. I want to sell something before it's even been finished. So and then you just end up with unhappy customers. So but yeah, no, it's been a really exciting journey. And one I still think we're on. Like we haven't
Yeah.
got there. We're not. We're
Yeah.
still building. We do a new release of the software every couple of weeks. We've got some really big plans in the new year, so we're integrating our software. I suppose it's the interesting thing, and this is something I learned from spending some time with another very successful founder who's a founder of a business called G2. G2 is like the trip advisor for software, right?
Okay.
So if you have a software product, you probably have reviews from your users on G2.
Okay.
And I met this guy. And actually, this is an interesting anecdote. He invited me to lunch at a conference, and he was the headline speaker. Right, so that'd be like going to a conference with Gary Vaynerchuk and him going, "Do you want to grab a beer?"
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? You'd be like, That's a bit weird." And I said, yeah, yeah. I thought it was like a group lunch, and we were a customer. Anyway, it was just me and him, and we had a chat. And I thought, well, why did you agree to meet me for lunch? And he goes, well, I got my PA to go through all our customers who were at the conference. Uh, and I was interested in you because you were the first listing on our platform in AI analytics. So that was interesting.
Yeah.
But more interesting is I got to do a bit of background research on everybody. And you do a lot of cycling, you do a lot of charity work. I'm big into my cycling, and I'm big into my charity. So suddenly I had this audience with this 5 times exited software founder, right? So he's grown and sold 5 software companies.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is anyway, he said to me, he said, what's your story, John? What's your plan? And I said, oh, well, we built this amazing platform that can help anybody in the world who spends money on Google and Facebook work out exactly where to spend their money. And it's like the elixir of life. And he's like, oh, that sounds great. And he goes, but that's not going to work. And I'm like, what do you mean it's not going to? He goes, you've got too much to go at and
Yeah.
you will lose focus. And I was like, no, 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 no. So anybody who spends money on Google and Facebook, he goes, you're not listening. He goes, you need to be hyper focused. And then he was like, well, at the end, who might buy you? And I'm like, well, maybe Shopify or maybe Salesforce or maybe. And I said, I don't think it'd be the ad. Google's not going to buy us to tell people to spend more money on Facebook, and Facebook's not going to buy us.
Yep.
So, but one of the other maybe ecom platforms or analytics platforms, maybe. And he goes, right. So, how many customers does Shopify have who spend enough money on Google and Facebook? And I goes, I don't know. He goes, you need to go find that out.
Yep.
And he goes, then you need to build a version of your platform that is just for Shopify. But before you do that, you need to find out where analytics and reporting sits on Shopify's roadmap, right? And if it's down the line, or if it's not on their roadmap and they're focused on building amazing websites for the consumer that are super fast and super easy to buy stuff, then you go all in on that, and then you sit on the shoulder of a giant, and then you just grow by being the little fish next to the whale. And then you've got your go-to-market, you've got your strategy, you know exactly what you're doing, and you're hyper-focused. It'll be easier to raise money. And I'm like, Andy paid for lunch. So anyway, after the lunch, I almost ripped up my strategy, and I said, did loads of research about the growth of Shopify, and did loads of research about what's going on in the world. So now we are a Shopify first AI marketing and analytics platform.
Okay.
In the new year, we launch our fully fledged Shopify app, and in the next 2 years, we want to be the number one AI analytics platform in Shopify. And that we will still sell our software to other people, right?
Yeah.
But that's going to be our sort of primary focus. And I suppose in terms of the lesson learned for me there was, if you think your total addressable market is a good thing to have it really massive, actually, that could be a distraction.
Yes.
Because how are you actually going to get to that obtainable market? How are you going to manage your go-to-market? So I did the analysis, Chris. There's 96 million websites in the world that spend over $50,000 a month with Google.
Right. Just to
Right?
repeat.
Do the math.
That's stunning.
96 million websites that spend
more
over
than 50 grand.
Yeah, a month. Right. So I was like, yeah, that's loads of people to phone up. But then how many salespeople making how many phone calls?
That's quite a lot.
Am I going to? Yeah, right. It's not a thing, right? So, and it also highlights why Google have got so much money, right? But then you whittle it down and go, well, how many of those are on Shopify? How many of those are selling more than this? Right. Let's get some laser focus. So that's been a really interesting process. And also it's aligned the team around, well, does that help towards that thing? Who's our ideal customer profile? Actually, if someone phones us up and they don't tick all these boxes, and if it's not easy to do, because when we first set the business, I'd speak to someone and they were just happy to look at the software. I go, oh yeah, do you want a free trial? And if you're building software, if anybody's listening to this, do not do free trials unless it's a completely self-service model. Right. So we were like onboarding people, we were training them, we were getting them to use it. And now we would only do a paid proof of concept if it's not a Shopify. If it's a Shopify end-to-end self-service, you can have a 14-day free trial. But if there's people involved, don't do a free trial. It'll just burn resource, distract you. You'll end up diverting your product roadmap on a sample size of 1 or 2 customers, and you can just easily get distracted, which we did, and we learned the hard way. I don't know if that, but that's it. So the big things for me is focus on what you're building and where is that sort of target obtainable market, and how can we build a sort of turbocharged go-to-market riding on the shoulder of us as a giant or swimming alongside the whale. And I'd never really thought about it like that. It's like, well, let's go fishing where the fish are. Well, the fish are all in Shopify, all right? And also everything's off. Shopify is just mom and pop shops. Every single Tesla car sold in the world was sold on a Shopify website.
Okay. Yep.
Even the dealer system, everything. If you buy it, anybody who's bought a Tesla bought it on Shopify.
Yep.
So it's not just, and that's one of the world's biggest companies. It's not just mom and pop shops.
No, it's interesting that there's a couple of sort of simple principles from your experiences and what you've identified. There's a couple of things I picked up many years ago, which was, and I think it was in sort of networking sort of arena, where they talk about if you go for everybody, you get nobody, and because the message isn't strong or clear enough.
Well, you just get snowblind. You can't be all things to all people.
Absolutely. But I think one thing I often say to people is, look, even if you want to go for your total addressable market, rather than go for the whole lot, go for individual pockets where you really understand
I
who
was
they are,
in
what their needs are, what their problems are, and how your solution will solve their problem.
I was at this tech thing with a load of other tech founders the other week, and everybody was like, "Oh, I used to think I was nervous that Google were going to put me out of business, or Google were going to do this, or Facebook were going to do this." But actually, a lot of these behemoth tech companies are trying to solve really big problems for the mass market. So if you niche down,
Yeah,
they're never going to go after your niche.
yeah,
Right. So the other, you could be really then going, well, actually, Shopify's still a bit broad. Should we just do fashion, or should we just do health and beauty, or should we just do supplements? Right. You could go really
yes,
super niche, or should we just do luxury? Um, but yeah, that's a big thing uh, we've learned. So I suppose the cost and time and effort of building tech, don't underestimate that. And then don't be scared to narrow down your total addressable market and get into a niche. Um, and then the other bit I've learned in the last 2 years. So I'm obviously a bit of an AI advocate, right? I've
yes,
always been into. I've been working in marketing technology all my life. One of my first jobs after uni was I worked for the company called QAS that invented the software where you type in a postcode and it brought your address back, right? You will remember the first time, Chris, you phoned a call center. They said, "What's your postcode?" And they told you, "Yes, it's magic. How did you do that?" Right? We're of an age where we remember that. Most people under 40 probably don't remember that, right? Because it just works now. And nowadays they call that AI. It was fuzzy logic, it was database matching. And I've always been obsessed by technology and AI, automation, I suppose, and what can we do at scale. Um, and the other thing I've made a mistake, so people can learn from my mistake here, right? I think most companies don't have an AI policy, right? So
yep,
you should think about what's our AI policy. Most companies, if you actually ask your team to be honest, 80+% of people will be using some form of LLM to do their job every day, probably either on a personally paid for account because they think it's worth paying for it themselves because it makes them do their job faster,
yep,
or on a free account, which is a real concern if they're putting company information into a free account because it's not. Unlike, should you have a policy? Should you invest in tech? But the scary thing is, Chris, only 16% of people have had any training, right?
yes,
So nobody
yes,
knows what they're doing. And there's
yep,
no standards. There's no agreed standard. The leader isn't standing up in front of the company going, right, we can all use this one. We're going to go get you all training and we're going to pay for a company account and this is how it's going to work. Right. They're sort of saying, oh yeah, have a play, do this. But the other bit I made a mistake on is I started sort of saying to people, right, and I'd be emailing them, oh, have you seen this? Can you have a play with this? Oh, have you seen this? And forcing it on people I thought would be interested. And they're looking at it going, why is John getting me to learn to use this piece of AI that might replace my job? So they weren't looking at it in the same way I was looking at it. And that sort of fell on deaf ears. So we did an AI competition and we put some money up. That sort of half worked because that sort of gave people permission to use it. And we've got an
yep,
AI policy and we've got this and we've got that. But the big change was we created an AI task force, which was voluntary. So
okay,
I said to everybody in the business, we're going to create an AI task force. So we're 40 people. There's only 10 slots.
yep,
And there's 10 slots. We will pay for all the tools you want. All right. We will give you extra time and we will invest in training.
yep,
So you will become a better version of yourself either for the future, obviously for the future, but also for now,
brilliant,
who wants in. And it was oversubscribed. And then every month, so they've been through a whole training program, external training provider, which we invested in. Now they're building agents that either help the clients or they're building agents that help their colleagues. And AI is now coming from the ground up rather than the
yep,
top down.
yep,
But I do think leaders and founders who aren't AI native, who think it's someone else's problem, need to go lock themselves in a room, play with Lovable, play with Claude AI. Actually, because they might have tried ChatGPT two and a bit years ago and thought, oh, it's crap, it doesn't work, right? It's not. It is.
yep,
It's. And again, it changes, right? So currently I use Gemini, Google Gemini for a lot of stuff.
Yep.
I use Claude for my coding, and I'm not even a coder. And then I use Perplexity for deep research, and I'm using all these different things. I'm unusual, right? Because I'm in this world,
Yep.
but I think it's difficult for a team of people to follow a leader who genuinely doesn't believe in it or understand it or see how it's going to impact their business. And I think I see a lot of leaders going, all right, I'm going to delegate AI to that person.
Right. Yep.
Yeah. It's a bit like I often share this story, right? Years ago when I was selling the postcode software, we used to have this location-based lookup service. You could type in your postcode, and it would link to near. You know, like you go onto, I don't know, Sports Direct website, and you find your nearest Sports Direct. We built that bit of technology, and we were pitching Debenhams, and I was actually trying to pitch them to sell online, and they just were like, no, we're not doing that. And anyway, we showed them this thing where you typed in a postcode and it brought back all their stores, and they were, that's what the internet's for, so
Yep.
people can find our shops, right? And we're sort of at this point now, I believe, is just like the internet didn't get rid of the high street, it changed how people shop. AI is not going to get rid of jobs. It's just going to change what jobs are
Yep.
and how you work. And I think we need to train our team. We need to give them guardrails. We need to let them know what good looks like and what they are and aren't
Yeah.
allowed to do. So they're not operating in the shadows, feeling they're doing something naughty, because they will be using AI. If they're not using AI, that's actually more worrying,
Yeah.
right? Because
Yeah.
they're
Yeah.
wasting time. So
Absolutely.
anyway, that's my rant over. Sorry.
No, no, it's but no, I mean it's really interesting. I think if you think AI is the new world, I think the old world in business was one of the things we always recommended is that the CEOs, the last thing the CEOs were responsible for in owning managed businesses was marketing and sales, because that was
Yeah, yeah,
that was like, if you don't know who your clients are, how how your products and services solve their problems, then your business is screwed. And I think it's a similar thing with AI now. It's not a delegatable thing. It's something you need to know from the top down, and then build teams
and
that can support
you
you.
don't need to do everything, but you need
No,
to have an
no,
understanding or
yeah,
keep up to date, and also be intellectually curious
yes,
into how you think it could solve stuff. Um, and yeah, I think genuinely where there's change and where there's new stuff to be learned, there's a huge amount of opportunity.
yeah, brilliant. Yeah, I think it's curiosity, isn't it? Curiosity is the
Yeah.
core of so many successful people and things, etc. It's what yeah. What can we learn? Stop learning, stop growing. I interviewed somebody a long time ago, and I'm seeing this afternoon, and I remember him saying, he runs investor groups in businesses, and I can't remember how we got the conversation, but he said as soon as a CEO in a growing business decides they don't need to learn anything else, that's when they exit them.
Oh, they're dead. Yeah, yeah, every day is a school day, and you're learning new
Yeah,
stuff. I think the interesting thing I have learned though is as well is how you then. Not everybody in every business is gonna be as curious or as
no,
excited as you, right?
no,
But what you've got to work out is how you disseminate the information in a friendly way to take people on that journey. So anyway,
cool.
sorry, you probably got a million more questions
No
for me.
need
I've
to
been just
apologise.
got off
No,
on a rant.
mate, it's all good. I told you at the start. There's no wrong, or indifferent. But let's do a couple of sort of Q&As on a couple of things. I know, I'm pretty sure you know we're a coaching organisation, so I'm keen to know who the best coaches you've worked with, whether that's business, sport, or life in general. Who's the biggest impact on you? You've probably highlighted a couple already, but
So I worked with a SAS coach in Canada, uh, a guy called Dan Martell. Very good.
yeah,
However, the style, and he knows this, so I hope he's listening. He probably isn't. He's a bit of a thing in the SAS world, but his style was sort of like a one-to-many thing,
right,
and that didn't work for me because I'm like, I'll just switch off. My wife
yeah,
thinks I've got ADHD, but I'm too distracted with other stuff to agree with her. But so that didn't work for me, but the community and the
yes,
knowledge was amazing. So that if you're in the software game, he runs a thing called the SAS Academy. That's
okay,
quite interesting. And then I've got and this sort of happened by accident. Um, so I've been in internet and digital marketing. Well, it started off direct mail, then it got its direct mail, then it got into email, then it got into e-commerce. And I met a guy years ago who used to run a company called Rackspace, and we became really good mates. And actually, if we were to distill it all, most of my business career started during après ski at different digital ski trips over my life, right? So if you look at a lot of my clients, a lot of my business partners, a lot of the people I know, we met drinking Jaeger bombs in the Alps. Anyway, I met this guy around Rackspace. We became quite good friends. We actually partnered together a lot. He successfully exited Rackspace, set up another hosting business called Pier 1 Hosting. And I started following his podcast because he started doing a podcast. And he's called Dom Monkhouse, and he started doing Monkhouse and Company. And then I can't remember how we ended up talking about coaching. I think he invited me on. It was a classic, a bit like what you're doing. He invited me on his podcast, and then we followed up with a couple of things and this, that, and the other. And I was like, well, I don't think I can afford this. And he goes, well, how much do you pay the SAS Academy? And I was like, oh, well, this much. And he goes, oh. So actually, Dom now not only coaches me, but he coaches the leadership team, which has been really good. But also, it's just no nonsense, and there's a framework, right? I do know a bit about Action Coach. There's a framework that sits behind it, and then they've got a person that brings it to life. So it's a similar thing, and they do this thing called scaling up, which is a Vern Harnish thing.
Yeah,
Vern. Yeah, he's like a force of nature. So I've had the pleasure of spending some time with him. He's like a force of nature. But Dom's also got his own sort of spin on it. It's like dealing with a Mitchell brother. He's like just no nonsense. It's like. Then I suppose the other one, more on the agency side, because I think in this world we live in now, everybody's trying to AI everything, right? And I think there's some things around human relationship and understanding people that you can't necessarily AI. All right, so I did this thing the other day. Is we just recruited some real salespeople, Chris, like real human beings.
Brilliant.
To talk to people and go to events and talk to people. And everybody else is talking about AI SDRs, and all this sort of stuff. But we use a guy called Mark Crichton, who's the ex-CEO of Dentsu. He grew a big agency called iLevel, and he's coaching all our agency team on how to really understand your client as a human being, and not just understand, because their personal objectives are maybe different to the business objectives. And if you can help your client achieve their personal objectives, you're going to have a better relationship. Absolutely. They're going to, and I think I was never taught that. I just sort of worked out. It's like, well, if we can teach our team to become better communicators, better asking questions, better understanding everything, then the clients will be happier. They will grow with us. We will grow. So yeah, Mark Crichton's a really interesting guy. And also, he's just got the credibility because he was COO at Dentsu, right? He's been there and done it.
Brilliant.
Right? So from an agency point of view, but and in the past, I think, and by the way, Chris is not. I've not been paid to say this. I think there's so many leaders out there who think they should know, and I think the other thing, I'm a member of lots of different CEO groups. It's a bit like AA for entrepreneurs or therapy for entrepreneurs or whatever. Is like, who do you go speak to if you want to sack your FD, right?
Yes.
Right. If you haven't got a really good board, or who do you go speak to if you want to sack your chairman, right? Yep. So it's like being part of either a coaching community or an entrepreneurs community gives you other people you can bounce stuff off. And I've really enjoyed. So I'm a member of something called ICE, which is a tech group of founders. There's 400 tech founders. That's really good. That's like, it's called ICE Network. It's and it's like, it's like 50 quid a month, right? So it's like it's a not-for-profit run by the members for the members.
Oh, cool.
Some people think it's a little bit like a cult, but it's the closest thing you can get to Silicon Valley in the UK. Brilliant. And then I'm also a member of another thing called Helm, which used to be the Supper Club, and that's more like scale-up founders.
Yeah.
But that's not tech specific. But the conversations you can have around a dinner table with other founders who are all on a similar journey. I find invaluable, because sometimes maybe your mates or other people aren't on a similar journey. And actually,
Yeah,
when you're out for a bike ride with your mates, they're not interested in the problem you've got with your VC or the problem you've got with this
absolutely.
or that. So, but yeah, so I'm a big fan.
Brilliant. No, yeah, no, really interesting stuff there. In fact, I think I think I passed might across it at various points in historically without knowing it. But yeah, I mean, obviously, with that, that's what we do, and we find that that helps people just being able, as you said, to share things, be supported, just and sometimes just to download, John. And you know,
Yeah, yeah,
we we
like
we,
therapy.
we call we call. I often call to my clients these a bit. We call them BMW moments, which stands for bitching, moaning, and whining. And it's okay to do a bit of that every now and again because we all have that, and that's why I've got my own coach that I'm able to do that and
Yeah,
offload, and then talk reasonably. So I am interested at this point because you're on a big scale, you know, a big scaling journey. Our definition of a true business and action coach is a commercial, profitable enterprise that works without its owners.
yeah.
Just interested to get your thoughts on that.
So we're not profitable by design because we're in that sort of SaaS scale up, ramp up phase. We have a path to profitability in the next 12, 18 months. But then the question is if we know what the cost to acquire customers, should we, and if the fire's going, should we make the fire bigger and pour more petrol on it? That's a big debate and discussion. And I suppose then as a founder, do you want a smaller piece of a larger pie?
Yeah,
Right. And also, have I got the energy desire to do all of that, or am I
yeah,
happy to? But no, so we've already got, so one of our first hires actually, Chris, was a COO.
great.
So we have an exceptional leadership team. And also, what was interesting when we raised the recent VC money, they were really surprised about how balanced our leadership team was in terms of all the different. So they do that. There's loads of different things, and like red, green, yellow, blue, all
The
these different things.
yeah,
There's different, or there's one
the
called
insights.
tilt, or there's all the different stuff. But we were really rounded in terms of our
Yeah,
skill set.
great.
So Abby, who's our COO, was almost like, so I'm all energy, drive. She's all get stuff done, write a list,
Yeah, brilliant.
and is like the rock of the business. Um, could I? Well, I'm about to go cycle across India
Yeah,
for a week
yeah,
and a
great.
bit. I'm not worried that when I come back, the business has fallen over. Um, so that said, I when I am away, I always do a couple of hours of work, but that's for me,
Yeah,
not because I don't trust the team. That's just because I've got things whirring around in my
yeah,
mind, and I just want to have a dabble around, and it will make I will enjoy my day better if I get up a couple of hours earlier and do a bit of tinkering or remind myself of something or read something or think about something. So yeah, but I think so it's about the other thing I joined recently was Richard Harpin's business leader thing, which is quite interesting, and he's always talking about recruit your replacement,
yeah,
right? Recruit your replacement now, because if you get to the point of an exit and you haven't, and you're still critical to the business.
yeah,
And I've been involved in earnouts before, and that's hard, and it's not much fun. All right, it's very difficult from being doing whatever you want
yeah,
within reason to then suddenly having a
yeah.
boss and being told what to do. And a lot of earnouts don't end well
No,
if we actually talk to people. So yeah, right now I'd like to think I'm important to the business, but I'd also like to think that the business could run successfully without me. So Dan basically runs the whole agency side of the business.
right.
Right now, between Aaron and our tech team, they could probably run. Aaron's our VP of sales, so between Abby, Aaron, and the VP of engineering, they could probably run the software business. Um, Whether or not they'll be driving the product roadmap and coming up with crazy ideas fast enough, I don't know. Yeah. So
It's a good point actually. I think there is a differentiation between running effectively with organic growth and growing at scale. And I think it's
yeah,
you know you can hand over to a great team. They don't necessarily have to be the same entrepreneurial scalers as we are. But if they're running it well and it continues to grow, then that's success. I would suggest it's
and I think it's and fundamentally, if you look at and listen to and learn about companies that are venture backed, they're investing it fundamentally in the energy and the drive of the founder.
Yes.
The product's got the story and the product's got to tick a few boxes, but they're
Absolutely.
like, is this person going to run through walls to get this done or not?
Yeah.
Right, and that's what they're investing in.
Yeah.
So, uh, and I think I've still got a few years left in me. But yeah, there is a plan.
Good man.
And if I'm still sat on your podcast in 15 years, the plan hasn't come to fruition.
Well, it was, as we said before we started, it's been 4 years since we did the last one. So we'll book the
Yeah.
next one for 4 years from now, and we'll see. We'll
Well,
see.
hopefully we'll be talking about a different story, and I'll be sat somewhere else.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, that'll do. We could do that. We could do anywhere in the world works for me. We could do it on a
But
bike, and I'll come and cycle alongside you.
yeah, let's
Um,
do it.
John, it's been fascinating to talk to you. I could honestly talk all day with you. But for now, anyone that's interested in getting in touch with you or any of your businesses, what would be the easiest way to make contact with you if they were interested?
So on LinkedIn as John Readman. So I'm always happy to connect with interesting people, particularly business owners in the north. Or check out if you're interested in saving money on your advertising. Have a look at Ask Bosco. If you want a hand improving, or if you want to go in house, or if you want to validate where AI fits in SEO, right? Everybody's getting excited about this at the moment, right?
Yeah,
We've got a sort of are you AI ready service and audit.
brilliant.
And you can just apply for that on modo25.com. And that's like a free thing we're doing to try and educate people because I think there's a lot of smoke and mirrors on LinkedIn now
Yes.
about AI, SEO, and so there is a lot of opportunity, but there's also a lot of smoke and mirrors and mistruths.
Yeah.
So
No.
yeah, so John Redman on LinkedIn, or if you want to go cycling around the world, ride25.com.
Ride25.com. I'm going to have a look at that. To think,
Yeah, we'll get you signed up, Chris.
absolutely. No, I'm fascinated. I've been lucky enough to travel in India many years ago, so I might even check what route you're taking, and
Yeah,
see if there's anywhere I know. John, as I say, it's been fascinating talking to you again, and thank you for your time. But for now, yeah, thanks, and we'll catch up again soon.
yeah. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you.